Brad Gilbert and Pete Sampras will play for $2 million. Pete Sampras, born Potomac, Maryland. He is now living in Rancho Palos Verdes in California. He's the U.S. Open champion, of course. He's won 3 tournaments this year: Philadelphia indoors, Manchester on grass, and the U.S. Open, which was his biggest result by a long way and a big surprise, the youngest ever U.S. Open champion, Fred.
And he deserved it. Cliff played some good tennis there. Going through the season leading up to that, the forehand, we did some matches when he played against Michael Chang. He made some errors on that, but boy, he improved that stroke. And now he's got the backhand to go with it. He still believes that the forehand is his biggest weapon, but I don't think I've seen anybody strike the backhand as well, as confidently as he did in that match against Chang yesterday off the backhand side.
Man he's playing against is also from the great state of California, from Oakland, California. Brad Gilbert, one of tennis's most enthusiastic persons about other sports. Of course, he loves tennis as well, but you ask him about just about any other sport and he will tell you everything and more. Oakland, California, as I said, born in 1961. He is 6'1" tall. But the truth about this man is that when he plays a tennis match, he's not a guy that you can just watch every so often hit a good shot, because he doesn't hit that many good shots. You have to sit down, you have to concentrate, and you have to understand the genius of this guy's game.
Yeah, well, I think he hits quite a few good shots, but he doesn't hit them as hard as the other players. He sort of lulls you to sleep there. He likes to play at his pace. Today, the tactics for today against Sampras will be that he will try and get the return of serve back and try and keep Sampras at the baseline. But when he gets a short ball, you find that Gilbert can attack off that forehand side. He doesn't do it very well off the backhand side. Doesn't have much stick on his backhand approach, but he's a counter-puncher, and if he's given an opportunity to run down the volleys, you're going to find that he'll make a few passing shots in this final today over 5 sets.
Head-to-head between these two players. Brad Gilbert is the one who leads this again. As a matter of fact, he has had a better head-to-head record than everyone else that he's played in this tournament, with the exception of Aaron Krickstein. They now are dead even, the two of them. That is Krickstein and Gilbert.
It's 2-zip to Gilbert.
Right, both of those played in Cincinnati. But they haven't played this year.
No, they haven't played this year, but they played on hard courts. And Sampras has said that, you know, he's quite confident playing and comfortable playing on this carpet. And this is an indoor carpet. He has not played a lot of tennis on that, but he did win Philadelphia on a similar surface at the start of the year.
Bradley Gilbert was in the commentary booth with us last week, of course, so he is hopefully comfortable in front of the microphone. Mary Carilla tested him out, had a long conversation with him just before the match.
Not bad for an alternate, Brad.
Yeah, it's been a good week, and hope to capitalize a little more today.
Anything you want to say to Andre Agassi, who made this all possible?
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.
Talk about the match last night.
It was a heated battle. I think, you know, he's a hard guy to play against because you get no rhythm. He makes so many mistakes, and yet he serves big. You know, he has a good holding game, and the thing is, like, when you serve, he goes for a winner return. So the thing is, it's hard for me, you know, because I like to play myself into points and play myself into games and stuff. But against him, you have to, you know, you have to be a little more aggressive because you can't just let him just, you know, dominate. That's the way he wants to play. So, you know, it's almost like playing Tanner in a way. You just get no rhythm. All of a sudden, you can find yourself at 4-0. The guy's not playing that well, but he's still holding serve. So it's a tough guy to play against.
What about Pete Sampras?
Pete Sampras, same kind of game, but yet probably much better from the ground. Pete is the kind of guy that can frustrate you because he can serve you off the court. You know, it's difficult because you know you got to hold serve, because if, you know, it's not like you can go out and have a 3 or 4 break set match with him.
How aware are you going to be of Pete's foot problems?
He's ready to go. I mean, he's got a blister. I mean, for $1 million, I think the blister will feel all right.
What do you think, Fred? I mean, I think he's right. But on the other hand, if you really have an injury, it is going to be a factor. Although I think somebody that Mary and you both said yesterday was true, and that is that you get a lot more focused when you have an injury. It can actually be a help sometimes.
No, I think that's correct too. You do tend to concentrate. But Pete Sampras made an interesting statement after that match yesterday. He said, well, I didn't feel the blister until towards the end of the 3rd set, and it started to bother me a little. And he said, once you start to think about that, once you start to think about your injury, then he felt that if he'd lost that set to Chang, he may have been in trouble.
Mary Carrillo's at courtside, a lot closer to the action than we are, Mary.
Well, Pete only warmed up for about a half hour this morning, and he actually he seemed to be moving quite gingerly in practice. Again, who knows? And you would think the adrenaline, you know, playing for $2 million, you might, as Brad suggested, you might try not to think about blisters. Of course, it's the shin splints that he came into this event with that were going to be more of a problem. There's a chair umpire, Bruno Ribot. And in fact, but Sampras said that in the middle of his third set against Chang yesterday, that all of the water blisters on his right foot popped, and that's what was painful about it. Remember, he said to me that it felt like needles, and in fact, he now has a new blister over all of yesterday's old one. So I don't think we can totally discount this injury.
Tell us a little bit more, Mary, about why the injuries may have reared their head.
Well, you know, it was just a suggestion to Sampras that in trying to favor his left shin splint problem, he's put too much weight on his right foot.
First ball in the air. This is Pete Sampras serving best of 5 sets. Tiebreakers in all sets except the 5th, if we get there.
More than anything, you have to know that Pete Sampras wants to get off this court at straight sets. I mean, for him to win, you know, he doesn't want to go long against Gilbert, who's so tough in the 5-setters. That's his brother, his older brother, Gus.
Right. Didn't you say that he'd had his calluses manicured as well, as you look at Gus?
Well, no, that was David Wheaton,
Wheaton,
who developed some pretty rough calluses. Yeah. And his feet got sore from all the cutting away of the calluses yesterday.
Well, I think that happens to any tennis players, particularly today when they're playing on all different types of surfaces. It's not all clay courts, and these types of surfaces are very jarring on your feet, and you do tend to get bad feet. Tactically today, you've got to look for Sampras to carry on where he left off yesterday. He's going to get to the net as soon as possible and be decisive. That's where I think he's improved in the last 4 or 5 months, is in the volleying department. He's always been a good volleyer as far as the execution of the shot, but never quite had enough zip on them, and he has got a little bit extra on them, and Chang couldn't run him down yesterday. And Gilbert's the same sort of a fella. He likes a target, so Pete Sampras has to put those first volleys away. He can't give Gilbert a couple of shots at the pass.
Gilbert became the bad guy. That's Kim Gilbert. That's his wife, Brad Gilbert's wife. And his coach, Tom Shivington. Gilbert became the bad guy in the whole Wheaton incident yesterday, and I think a lot of the fans will be pulling for Pete Sampras, whose game tends to be more enjoyable to watch, and whose manner on the court is so likable. But even today, when they announced Brad Gilbert's name, there was some booing. A holdover from the Wheaton semi.
They are both going to be fined $5,000 for what happened. Equally apparent, according to Ken Farrar, that that they were both responsible for this nose-to-nose confrontation that you saw Mary talk about, or that you heard her talking about, and that you saw. We determined that both players were equally guilty for both in the situation. Wheaton first, and then Brad Gilbert.
Big first serve here, and Gilbert, that's the best return off the backhand that he's hit off a solid serve. Deuce in the opening game of the match.
Of course, they can both afford the 5,000 pretty easily at this point.
Gilbert opens confidently there, a half volley right into the corner, but he gets himself set. Sampras looking for the backhand down the line. And Gilbert just rolls that 3/4 pace. He doesn't hit the ball as hard as a lot of the players on the passing shots, but he certainly is accurate.
There's Ken Farrar, I talked about just a moment ago. He's the referee of this tournament. This is break point, first game. First game of a best-of-5 set match, you know, you tend to say, well, hold on, let's just get concentrated on this thing once it gets a little bit into it. But don't be fooled, because a guy like Sampras, to get an early break is, I mean, could set a pattern for the whole match. What a volley from Sampras.
Well, he showed us yesterday what fine touch he has in that department with the drop volleys and the angle volleys against Michael Chang, who is a little bit faster than Brad Gilbert. Not by much. Gilbert moves quite well around the court, but just too tough a shot, that one from young Pete Sampras.
Pete Sampras down a break at 1 point, or break point, holds on. 1-love.
Just taking a little time to get themselves settled for the final of the Compaq Grand Slam Cup. The scouting report on Pete Sampras there, serve and volley. And we've seen a couple of terrific volleys. We saw the serve yesterday, those aces, the backhand. Inexperience, hasn't played in too many post-season matches at the end of the year, and a shaky forehand, but he seems to have corrected that pretty well.
Second game of the match, first game to Sampras.
15.
Brad Gilbert serving and volleying. You don't find him doing that all that often, but he mixes it up. All court strength, all court counter puncher. Part of his strength and his consistency. That means that he doesn't make too many errors when he has the opportunity. Lack of a big shot, and that may be a telling factor today. Depends on how Pete Sampras serves, in my book.
Love. WCT finals in Dallas, which used to be a year-ending competition, was played best-of-5 sets, 8 players. In the Masters tournament, changed formats, but essentially ended up with the same as the ATP Tour Final World Championship, which is 8 players, 2 round robins. This is 16 players, knockout competition, best-of-3 sets until the semi-final. Then semis are 5 sets, and so is the final. Gilbert holds on, 1 game all, first set.
Compaq Grand Slam Cup, they haven't had to deliver too many fines this week. 3 in all, actually, and Brad Gilbert's got 2 of them. One for ball abuse in an earlier match. He got $350 for that.
He whacked it up way up in the stadium, didn't he?
And then that was after he lost the first set of his match with Svensson, I believe. And then a $5,000 for yesterday, and David Wheaton also $5,000 from yesterday's confrontation. This is where Gilbert gives the big servers problems, is on the return of serve. He gets ready so quickly. If you remember, he has a winning record over Boris Becker, Brad Gilbert, and one of the reasons for that is, in fact, the return of serve.
Becker says he just brings you down to his level, and he does it successfully, and Becker says you start out fine against him, and then finally he just wears you down.
Well, Gilbert admits to playing that way, doesn't he?
Sure. Proud of it. Why not? As I said, there's a genius about him that you can only appreciate by concentrating on what he does.
15,
because it doesn't look flashy.
David Wheaton said the same thing. He just said he makes me play at a level that I'm not used to. He plays differently than anyone I ever play.
That man's heart may be one of the most important things in this final as you watch this replay.
This is the backhand that he, I think, is as good a shot as the forehand. Now it's a good penetrating approach shot that he hits in another stop volley. 3 of those he's played successfully so far.
Sampras's feet are also a big part of this story. The blisters that he's had.
Yes, 40-30.
Good comeback from Sampras, down love 30 here.
It's difficult to get into a rhythm against Brad Gilbert, isn't it? On the other hand, with Pete Sampras, you've somehow got to get the ball back to get yourself in the point as well as he serves. That's the key. Sampras holds on, 2-1, first set. The early stages of this match, best of 5 for $2 million. From the Silver Dome. Bears, of course, trying to get the home field advantage in the playoffs. Down to the wire time in the NFL. This is what a time of the year for sports in the USA, isn't it? This is Munich, Germany. We're in the Olympia Halle, final match of the Compaq Grand Slam Cup. These boys, I don't want to beat this thing to death, but these boys are playing for more money than they've ever played for before. $2 million first prize here. More than double. More than triple, actually. And really ever offered before, with the exception of the ATP Tour Finals. First prize for winning US Open is what, about 350?
Around about that. I think most of the Grand Slams are in that range. But then again, it's not so much the prize money from the Grand Slam tournaments, it's the endorsement value that having won a Grand Slam title gets you, particularly the 3 big ones. When the French, if you're European, it's very important. Here, when Yannick Noah won the French, and Wimbledon and the US.
Noah winning the French was supposed to be worth $10 million. At least that's a story I heard.
I would say that would probably, over a period of 3 years, 4 years, be a pretty conservative estimate, Mary. I'd go along with that.
15 all.
This is what you have to watch for today, the movement of this young fellow with the blisters. He may not chase as many down as he would like. He pulls up on that one. It's not a good sign, because if you just sort of say, well, I'm not going to run after anything if it's too far away, I don't feel I can get it, that sort of slows up the whole mental process of how you're thinking about playing the match.
Of course, you never know with him. He's such a casual player.
Yeah.
Casualed his way to the final and a win at the US Open. He's a very together young man, 19 years old.
Good for the sport.
Gilbert's 10 years his senior.
And Gilbert shows us that he can crank up on the serve occasionally.
Another part of his game that is kind of invisible, but is a strength. That's the first serve of his, when he gets to the point where he has the rhythm and the timing. Then you got to look out.
Well, he got an early break in the 5th against David Wheaton, and he'll serve through the 5th set.
I think his serve gets better as the match gets older, too.
Another forehand return from Gilbert. He hit the same shot off the first point in Wheaton's last service. I mean, in Sampras's last service game.
strokes every ball, doesn't he? He never looks like he's overexerting himself.
He was asked about the crowd after his confrontation last night, whether he felt that they would be against him. He said if they are, they are. Pete's a young fellow coming up, US Open champion. So I just have to play my game and worry about it. That won't bother him.
He said also, Fred, that for Sampras to win this would be good for this event. You know, he would be a very worthy, a very good-looking first winner of the Compaq Grand Slam Cup. But he said, I also know this is a 1 in a million opportunity for me. Once in a lifetime, he said.
No, he's very realistic,
isn't he?
Gilbert, definitely.
And it's a generous thought, really.
It is.
But you can bet he's going to fight till the last point for $2 million.
The irony of it all is that as successful as he's been, Brad Gilbert, he's never done well in Grand Slam tournaments.
This was set up by the big forehand, and you can see how casual Pete is, but he gets underneath this one in position, and he's very close to the net. He has to be very careful that he doesn't finish that swing and touch the net, otherwise he loses the point. Or even if the foot touches the bottom of the net, he loses that point if it's during the swing.
Game point for Sampras. Let me remind you that in order to qualify for this Grand Slam Cup, you qualify by amassing points at Grand Slam tournaments only. The ATP Tour does not count. Pete Sampras is holding on. No serve breaks in this match yet. 3-2 first set. Points, the runner-up 450, semi-finalist 300, quarterfinals 150. As you see, the 4 Grand Slams, of course, are the Australian, the French, Wimbledon, and the US Open. Stefan Edberg got more points than anybody, followed by Ivan Lendl, then Boris Becker and Andre Agassi, neither of whom showed. Andres Gomez, Pete Sampras, etc. John McEnroe also qualified, and he didn't show, nor did Mats Wilander. The reason for that was because those 4 felt basically that this tournament was competitive with the ATP Tour World Championship held 3 weeks ago in Frankfurt. So kind of a political thing.
Yeah, definitely a political thing. This Pete Sampras' second career postseason tournament, and he played in the tournament Cliff just mentioned, the ATP Championship Finals.
The best part of the story then for Brad Gilbert is that he was number 20 on the list. I mean, this guy had to hope that 4 other guys wouldn't play in this thing, and that's how he got in. And now he's playing for its top prize.
He was in the booth with us in St. Petersburg, remember, as you watch Brad Gilbert on this replay, and when Andre Agassi said that he was going to play, he said, hey, what about me? And of course, Andre Agassi and finally did not play. More on Andre Agassi later.
Sampras in the ATP Championships defeated Emilio Sanchez, but he lost to Agassi and Stefan Edberg in the round robin. That was a round robin.
What a shot. You tend not to pay enough attention to the ground strokes of Sampras, do you? Because his serve and volley is so good, but this is exceptional.
Well, the backhand is his best shot, and he shows us that he can come over it as he did there, not with a lot of heavy topspin, but controlled topspin, where he creates the angle. That one bounced inside the service line area, or he can hit the flat one, the explosive one down the line. This year all competed here, and it's nice to see one of them get to the final. Sampras in the US Open, youngest player ever to do that. He's the second youngest Grand Slam champion. Michael Chang has that honor when he won the French in 1989. He was only 17 years and 3 months. So they're getting younger and younger.
Break point. 3 of them for Sampras.
And he's made it.
One is all he needs. First break of this match, and Sampras has a 4-2 lead in the first set.
Well, we saw both those backhands in that game, and a very enthusiastic crowd there. The cross-court backhand, a little bit of topspin. That one he stayed down. Very similar type backhand to that of Stefan Edberg, the way he produced that shot. He reminds you a little bit of Edberg, just with the way he takes the forehand back. He hits the ball a lot flatter than Edberg, I think, and I think he's got a bit more stick on the serve as well. Beautiful motion here. This is what the players play, wide and wide. You call that wide and wide. He goes out wide to the forehand there. It opens the court, and he just dumps the volley over into the service court area.
Took a little bit off that first serve, didn't he? Or his 3/4 pace. I think that Brad Gilbert feels that you play against a guy like Pete Sampras and you're really under his control. What he does is going to dictate what happens. A lot of players feel that way. A guy who serves as hard as he does.
And it's a difficult serve to read, Cliff. Also, he gets a lot of action at the top of the swing up there when he snaps the wrist. The only one so far in the match for Sampras.
Tell you again, if you have not been with us throughout our coverage of this Grand Slam Cup since Tuesday when we started, that Pete Sampras' coach of since late 1989, actually, Joe Brandy, is no longer with him. And he's considering another coach and looking for someone.
I think you get a lot of applications.
Sampras holds on. He has a 5-2 lead, 1 break in the first set. First set, 1 break is served to Sampras.
Net approaches there. Pete Sampras, we knew he'd be all over the net early. He's 10 of 16. Gilbert hasn't had too many opportunities to get in there. He's 2 of 5 so far in the match.
The best that Pete Sampras has ever done in his career in Grand Slam tournaments is what you're looking at. Australia, the 4th round this year. The French Championship, 2nd round in '89. At Wimbledon, he has never won a match. And at the US Open, of course, he won this year. The irony of it all is that Brad Gilbert, who has really never played well in the major championships, is here. He is playing for $2 million. The Australian, he got to the 4th round back in 1984. At the French, he's only been to the 2nd round ever. He's been a quarterfinalist at Wimbledon. That was this year. And the US Open, he was a quarterfinalist back in '87. Those are, you know, you take a look at that career, mind you. That's not, those not good numbers for him. 15 all. But outside of those Grand Slam tournaments, he's been terrific.
something is that Pete Sampras has been working the last few years to redesign his game in order to win at Wimbledon. And as you say, he hasn't won a match there yet, but that was a big surprise. Yeah, really. That was a big surprise. He said, I really thought the first title I'd win would be Wimbledon, not the Open.
Sampras has joined an elite group of players, though, by becoming the youngest player to win the US Open. Chang was the youngest to win the French in '89. Becker, the youngest at Wimbledon, 17 years, 7 months in '85. Wielander, 1983, when he won the Australian, was 19 years and 4 months.
So Gilbert holds on, and it is Pete Sampras to serve now for the first set. He hasn't lost his serve in this match. He's lost his serve in, let's see, 1, 2, 3. He's played 3 matches.
4 times.
4 times, yeah.
He lost a serve to Chang.
Yeah.
And also to Ivanisevic, and then twice to Andrei Cherkasov in the first round.
Lost his serve to Ivanisevic when he was serving for the set. Then he won it in the tiebreaker.
But he squeaked through every match. I mean, against Cherkasov, it was 7-5 in the third set. Against Ivanisevic, it was 8-6 in the third set. He had an easy one with Chang.
Gilbert, on the other hand, he's gone the distance in everything he's done this week. He lost the first set in both his matches against Svensson and Krickstein. And then he went 5 sets yesterday against David Wheat.
It is not easy to befuddle this man, you know, on the ground strokes. There is no better tennis tactician than him. So be impressed when you see a ball go by him that he cannot even reach. 30 love, 2 points from the first set for Sampras.
Brad Gilbert has cramped after both of his last 2 matches.
I talked to him about that, Mary. I asked him if it was purely nerves or whether he'd physically. He said, I haven't played really a match in 6 weeks worth of Don, and I'm physically tired. I'm not sure that's right, though. I think just the tension of playing for all this money takes its toll. First set to Pete Sampras. Best of 5 sets. We'll be back.
But, you know, no excuse. I really didn't play very good tennis in the fall. I, played pretty well for a couple weeks, but, now I'm walking on the court as being the U.S. Open champion, and now all the pressure's on me, and my opponent, has nothing to lose. So it's a little bit more different. But on the other hand, I've also won some matches this fall for being, the number 5 player in the world, and now I've got that reputation. So when it comes down to a crucial situation in the match, I think I'll win.
I think I'll win when it comes down to a crucial situation. That's confidence.
And that only comes after you've won a Grand Slam tournament, or you get some wins over players you consider the top players in the sport.
Look at a guy like that talking, Fred. It makes you feel good for him because you know that he's not just a flash in the pan. It's not like he's going to have one tournament and then have trouble in the future. He is going to be around for really as long as he likes. He seems to have a very good head on his shoulders and not in too much of a hurry. Gilbert serving. First game, 7-7.
I like the fact that when Mary asked him about the money for the tournament, he said, I'm not thinking about the money. I don't spend much bread. Maybe I'll get a sports car, but I just want to be the same Pete Sampras as I was 6 months ago.
Yeah, he may get. He's got his eye on a Mercedes 500 he likes.
Well, that'll take a fair bit of change.
Yeah, I just remember. I agree with you, though. There's nothing flashy about Sampras. That's very likable about him. But I remember this year Monica Seles was talking about how she wanted to buy a Lamborghini, and her parents were against it. And so, we asked her, well, why do you want that car? And she said, it'll be easier to get boyfriends with that car.
By the way, Munich is the home of BMW. Bavarian Motor Works is what it stands for, and Munich is the capital of Bavaria.
But, you know, I went up to Sampras last night and I said, hey, Pete, how much money you have in your wallet? How much money do you walk around with? And after telling me that I always ask him strange questions, he said, you know, $50, $60. He said probably the most he ever had in his wallet at one time was $100.
All.
That's the shot that has improved as this year has progressed. And if it gets much better, there's going to be a lot of fellas paying the penalty.
Break
he
point.
just flattens this one out straight down the line.
First game, second set. There is nothing that I can see at the moment that will change this barrage of shots from Pete Sampras. Break point, he had a volley open court that he just missed. But he's the man who's going to make things happen in this match. So far he's made them happen, and they've all been good for him.
He just never got down to that volley at all. It was pretty casual. He is a very casual type of player, but he got out there, and if he'd have been down another 6 inches, bent his knees a little bit more, that would not have happened. You've got to try and get your eyes down to the level at the ball as it comes over the net there. Tough one for him to miss.
Another break point. First game, second set.
Gilbert, you could hear him just say, quick running around your backhand.
You like what Sampras is doing, Fred. He's not rushing.
No.
He's using his serve well.
He never does that.
No.
He just gets out there and gets the job done. Another break point. Second ace for Gilbert.
Deuce.
He never has lost in this building, as we said earlier. He won his 2 Davis Cup matches here against Germany last year, and of course he's won every match this week as well. And he's very superstitious. He thinks that's a good omen.
He has held on first game of the second set, but he lost the first.
On first is in that last game. And, well, the winners, that tells the story, 19-10, and again the errors. So you're going to find that Sampras will lead in both those categories right throughout the day, because he is the man that is making things happen. And Gilbert lost his serve on one occasion. First set took just 31 minutes.
Second game, second set. Sampras, who won the first, serving, trailing. Love one.
Perfect execution on that volley there from Sampras. I mentioned at the start of the show, he gets in that confident mode. It's not a strut, it's just a confident walk around the place and seems to be well within himself.
40.
Looks like Gilbert feels as though he's taking the ball too close to his body. He wants to block the ball further out in front. That's what I got out of that miming.
Have a look at this volley, folks. It's in the air. He's in the air when he makes it. That's perfect timing and even better execution. And a fine backhand cross again from Gilbert.
Years ago, Brad was the alternate for the WCT championships, the finals in Dallas. And he got called up. He was at his buddy's house drinking a beer, laying around by the pool. He came up that day, and he got to the final that week as well. Lost to John McEnroe. Again, and he charged himself for it.
Well, what happens when he runs around that shot? He plays it into... He gets around that. Sampras hitting this one. But watch what happens on the backhand. Gilbert runs around the forehand and gets it there, and then he leaves too much open court. And Sampras, the way he's been striking that down the line backhand, he just can't do that too often. The same thing with Chang yesterday. That's where Sampras hit a lot of winners yesterday, deep into that forehand corner.
Sampras thought that serve was long. It did look long.
30 all, an opportunity there for Sampras. He had break point on Brad Gilbert's first serve game of this set, but lost it. Now game point for Gilbert.
My unofficial stats, that makes 5 aces, but the official stats have got 6, so we better go along with the official stats and stay with 6 aces for Gilbert.
Fred, I'm boys. You religiously follow them. That was as good as an ace, and Brad Gilbert holds on. It's 2 games to 1 second set. Sampras won the first. Here we're in set number 2. Brad Gilbert playing Pete Sampras. Pete Sampras serving, trailing 1-2 second set. But Sampras won the first set. I'm Cliff Drysdale with Fred Stolle and Mary Carrillo. We have been here since Tuesday. This is the ultimate day in this championship, and the ultimate prize for the winner here is $2 million.
Serve and volley, another well-played volley, deep volley from Sampras there. And we mentioned if he serves well, you can't do much about it. And he's winning over 70% of the points when he gets that first serve in. Gilbert's cracked a couple of good returns, but you just can't stop somebody when they're serving that well.
30 love. Mary, do you sense any gingerness about the way that Sampras is walking?
No. No, I don't. Not yet, anyway.
The help from the net, and Sampras has game point.
Pete Sampras was so close to being out of this tournament when he was down a break point against Goran Ivanisevic. He was down a set, and it was 4-all, 30-40, and let cord that nearly jumped over his racket. He got his racket on it, hit it for a winner, and then went on to win the match.
40-15.
So things can turn around with just a point here and a point there, and matches are close. This one is a little too far inside, just maybe by about a yard, and that's all Brad Gilbert needs. If he can get over there and get his racket on it, he can control the passing shot very well.
That's right, so Pete Sampras holds on. We're on serve in the second set. Gilbert has been in trouble. Sampras has not been in trouble on his serve here at all. 2 games all.
Only time Sampras was in trouble was the opening game of the match, when he was down 1 break point. He came up with 3 serves to hold on.
From center, 15.
It's very clean hit of that forehand side. There's not that I mean, there's some topspin on it, but not that much. Not as much as a lot of the serious top spinners in our business. Doesn't have that
much more
way around Western grip.
No, he's much more of a conventional type player with the grips that he uses. So is Gilbert. He stands right over the top of that shot when it gets short.
It's almost a two-handed swing with one hand. He changed from a two-hander to a one-hander when he was 14 or 15 years old. Sampras, that is. Break point for Sampras. You see that Sampras put his foot up there on the signage, court signage, and winced a little. Mind you again that he has had blister problems all week. Break point. And the break of serve, the first one of the second set. 3 games to 2 Sampras and 1 set to love. Looking at now, he's very much hoping that he wins this because Bradley will double his prize money from $1 to $2 million, and I hope he's on a percentage.
Like Gilbert, Tom Shivington is a master of low-tech tennis. He plays just like Brad does.
Low-tech tennis. Does that mean you don't have a big shot? Does that...
Yeah.
Mary Carrillo has been talking to a lot of people. One of them was Tom Shivington, who says that Brad is very often at his best when he's down.
No, that's the way Brad is. He's best when he's backed in a corner or he's down or there's a crisis situation. He's not his best when he's ahead and that sort of thing and he relaxes. That's the way he is.
That's where he's at, too. His back is not exactly to the wall yet. This is only the second set in a best-of-5 set match, but he's down a break in 1 set.
He can't back up too much further.
Tom Shivington, by the way, he's won the California State Championship title. He's a coach at Foothill Junior College. That's more times than any other school. He's been there for 23 years, and in fact, Dick Gould of Stanford, he started off at Foothill, won 2 titles for them as well. It's a remarkably successful small college.
For a clean winner for Sampras on the passing shot. There is Tom. He's in just about the middle of your screen in the black suit, rather nice looking suit. Next to him is Kim Gilbert.
Georgia Shivington, his wife, must be playing with Zachary, the Gilbert's 2-year-old kid. She is also a highly successful junior college coach, Chabot Junior College. In fact, this year she's won the Women's Tennis Coach of the Year. They know what they're looking at when they watch tennis, those two.
Very laid back, very pleasant gentleman. Like all people in this business, he loves to talk about the technique of the sport, what it takes to win. New strategies that players try.
Actually, Mary, we've got one to put one up on you here.
What's that now?
Barbara has just told us that Georgia went back last night to accept her award, so she's not out there playing with Zach. She's gone home to accept her award.
Ah, that's nice.
Barbara Travers, she gets around nearly as much as you do.
She sure does.
Game to Sampras. It's 4 games to 2 in the second set. While it takes Grand Slam points to qualify for this championship, there is no Grand Slam money that goes toward this $8 million event. It is really promoted by Axel Meyer-Volden and his company, television and production company. Compaq Computer, of course, are the sponsors of it all. $6 million goes into prize money, $2 million into the ITF Trust Fund, which is spent for the betterment and development of tennis worldwide.
And Compaq have a 5-year commitment to this event, and what is it, 3 years to be played in Germany?
3 years right here in Munich.
In Munich.
40 love, Gilbert. Gilbert holds on, but he's still a break his serve down. It's 4-3 for Pete Sampras, the U.S. Open champion. He won the first set 6-3. He's president of the International Tennis Federation. Gordon, by the way, got married this year. Congratulations to him for the first time. And there's Ruthie Jorgensen, that's his wife.
Philippe Chartrier at a press conference held today. He said, I have no doubt in my mind that within 2 or 3 years, every top player will play in this event.
And, of course, the ITF and the Grand Slams in this championship have the staying power, so there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be around in 2 or 3 years. And, Mary, I agree with that. I think that they will probably, because I think there'll be some accommodation between the ATP Tour and the International Tennis Federation. They can't stay at odds for years, and I don't think they will.
Brad Gilbert, see that grip there? They don't make those anymore. It's a real furball grip. It's called a Rocky Mounted Sports Grip, and it was sold in pro shops for years for $2 each. Then the company went out of business 3 years ago, so Brad bought up the last 500 of them at $5 a grip, and now he's down to just his last couple. He loves this. He loves that.
Is that like an overgrip?
That
Mary?
furry feel, yeah. And as I said, he's going to miss them when they're all gone.
30 love Sampras. And now game point for Sampras, and this will put him, if he wins one of these next 3 points, within 1 game's reach of the second set and a 2-set to love lead.
But I must say it was a very disappointing press conference on a number of levels. The Grand Slam committee, as you have another look at that big return, nice clean return from Gilbert, they have not yet decided on what to do about Andre Agassi's pullout of this event. Said the investigation is still ongoing, and of course a lot of people jumped on that. Said, how can that be? It's been a month already, and they were accused by one of our friends, Mark Fogarty of Australian radio, for being wimps. They didn't like that, but I think a lot of people share that view.
Five games to 3 in the second set. This is Gilbert serving to try to stay in the set.
You hear Brad tell us what he's going to do now. He's going to start ripping the ball. He's not hitting the ball hard enough because Sampras is just overpowering him at the moment. Normally that's our Bradley. He normally goes over those boom mics and tells us what's going on. He's been rather quiet this week until now.
Wide, love 30. Sampras 2 points potentially away from the second set. Oh, what an opportunity. Look at him. Won the U.S. Open this year. Playing now, both of them, for $2 million.
Sampras